Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Bar and the Brain. I am Taylor Fawumi. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor here in Maryland, and I am
Whoop,
accompanied by
whoop.
my beautiful co-host and best friend, Tonee Earle Esquire,
Period.
a bar law attorney all over the place. She's barred in many of places. So
Yes, ma'am.
we are back here talking about All Her Fault, and we are getting into episode 3 today. So in the third episode, it was a lot going on. It was a really
It
good
was.
episode. I really enjoyed watching it back because this is the episode where we start to really kind of get into Anna's involvement and,
Mm-hmm.
just the whole, I guess, unfolding of
Mm-hmm.
basically how Carrie was even able to get so much information on Milo. So
She,
this shows how Anna was very vulnerable. She was very open. She talked to the Irvines about what had happened, what was going on, and how she didn't really think nothing of it at the time. But now, recognizing all the things that's happened, she realized that she gave Carrie a lot of ammo. She
mm,
told Carrie about his nightly routine, the family he comes from, talked about the house and you know, them having a alarm, talked about his favorite foods, all types of things that a person who maybe wanted to kidnap a person would need to know, or, it'd be good to know to make sure that the child is comfortable.
facts.
I mean, Tane, what you think? What you think about episode 3 when, just that starting off, just learning about Anna and like her playing her in it?
Yeah, I mean, I too thought episode 3 was really, really good. I thought that Anna's character gave notes of like your immigrant, hardworking person who maybe just doesn't really catch on to not social cues, but just, you know, criminal cues, I guess. Like, she didn't really understand. I mean, she really couldn't even catch on to what Carrie was trying to do. And it just, watching it back and hearing kind of her point of view as she was talking to the Irvines as well as the detectives, you can see her head kind of just like, "Mm, hindsight, I can see that this girl really got me, but I didn't realize in the moment." And honestly, part of me really does wonder if maybe she thought something was going to happen where her and Carrie were going to like do some joint venture together, because why did you lie to the police in the first place? Did she lie to the police in the first place was my question.
I think she, one thing she kept saying was she's like, I'm scared I'm gonna get in trouble. So we don't know her status. Maybe she
True,
is nervous about being here on a visa. And,
true.
I believe one of the things that can not provoke, invoke. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Invoke you from getting your citizenship is if you do commit a felony. Like
Right.
you wouldn't be able to go up for potentially getting your citizenship. So she's probably thinking like, oh no, like this Carrie girl is actually a bad person. I don't want to be involved with her. I don't want to get in trouble. So I
Right.
think, it speaks to that. It didn't go into too much detail about Anna's position as far as like citizenship status and stuff like that. But when she kept saying,
Mhm.
I'll get in trouble, I'll get in trouble, it seems like
Mhm.
that was like her motive for just not being truthful in the beginning.
Yeah, no, I agree. And honestly, it's so interesting that you say like maybe she was afraid of getting in trouble and her immigration status getting revoked, because you would think up until the moment she lied to the police, she really hadn't done anything wrong. Right? Like she just going through the motions. She's meeting, this woman, and she's making friends. This other woman is in the same field as she is. They take care of the kids. It's fun to have the kids play together because then they get to gab, and it's basically like this fun job. And then her
Hmm.
instinct to lie to the police, it's just like now we're getting into kind of obstruction of justice territories. To be completely honest, I'm not a criminal lawyer, so I don't know necessarily the elements, but I'm gonna look up what are the obstruction of justice elements. Let's see. Potentially, there could be some obstruction of justice, and Anna could have really dug herself in a hole by lying to the police. Now, potentially, her saving grace is she did come clean,
She did.
and she came clean without threat of like her immigration status or anything like that. So I think potentially we this show doesn't really get into, anything like that, but if It did. I think that could be potentially an interesting take because in this episode, when Marissa's like, "Oh, the police are here." When Anna is talking to Marissa and Peter, she's like, "Oh, the police are here," and Anna's like, "Oh, you called the police?" And Marissa's like, "You better be glad I did," or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah, she said, "You should be
"Yeah,
happy
baby,
they're here," because Marissa was
yeah."
given like, "I would uppercut you."
Marissa was ready to reach over that counter and get her. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because I mean, you're playing with her son's life. And also, I think also just the vibe that Anna was given, it seems like she was very sorry. She did seem like she was very shaken up. And I think that's why the police didn't go too hard on her, is because they could tell just by her just giving
right,
all the information that she was
right,
trying to be as authentic as, it's descriptive and things to make sure that she's doing everything she can, because
right.
it seems like she cares about Milo a lot. Like, she's not
Mhm.
only the nanny, but it sounds like, she really cares for Milo's well-being. And
Right,
even though she lied at first, I think that guilt was eating her up, because she's like, I need to tell them something, because if not, she probably even thought they're going to find out.
right, right.
Like, it
And
didn't
I felt
take
like this
long before they got the malted milkshake stories together.
Oh my god, that was so quick. That and you know what? It's interesting because I would think you would have looked early on at what your nanny is doing with their credit card and probably would have put two to two the mall shakes. Wouldn't you want to know what your child is talking about when they say something funny and they're like, "I want a mall shake," and you're like, "Oh, what's a mall shake?" And you're thinking, "Oh,
Mhm.
it's a shake from." No, wouldn't you actually want to know? Like, wouldn't you want to? Who are you hanging around that you get mall shakes?
Rich people problems, because they don't even check. They didn't even check they're not even worried about the balance or the the spending limit. They're just
Bro,
like, the nanny got the credit card, they're good, they're safe. It's
you just calling up some random bakery. Can you make my son a mall cake? Like you don't even know what it is, and didn't do anything to figure it out.
nope.
These parents were very oblivious, very oblivious,
Very oblivious. Very, work focused, work driven, career driven, things like
for
that.
sure, for sure.
Speaking of that, in this episode, our girl Jenny was, trying to go after a author for her publishing house and get him to switch. And I thought in this episode, it really showed how, she was really trying to be that working mom, and how she scheduled a meeting in the city with the idea that she would get back in time to pick up her son from school. But the author pushed it back an hour, so she had to call her husband
Hmm.
to see if he'll pick up their son, which he did agree. But I can just tell, just in his vibe and like how he said sure, he didn't really want to. And then later on in the episode, it showed us that when she came home with her exciting news that she got him, she got the author, and she was so excited to share that. He was just like, oh, everything was a fight, like bath, books, doing dinner, whatever. And he was just like, almost like complaining about spending time with his son or taking care of his son. And you could tell by the look on her face, she was super irritated just by the tone of the conversation. But also, as he's talking to her, he leaves a mess on the counter. Like, he just made a sandwich and he left out the mayo. The mustard has stuff all over the counter, and like, he dips, and it's like the expectation is for her to clean it.
Bro, that entire exchange. Initially, I was like, okay, Jenny's husband got a little bit of points because he ain't hesitate when she said, my moving got pushed up, or my meeting got pushed up, and I need you to pick up our son. He was like, okay, I got you, babe. Yeah, you ain't trying to make no real money, but I got you. Cause I peeped the sarcasm. I peeped you're working really hard and it's not like you're bringing in any more money. My guy, you sit in the car and play games when you're supposed to be doing work. So calm down. But then when she gets home and he's upset, it's like, my dude, you act like you just babysat your child. You act like you sat in for the nanny this afternoon. That is so sad. He's trash. He's trash.
Yeah, he was like a like unbelievable. I was just like, because my thing is, even if you felt all those things, because obviously I'm not a parent yet, but I can just imagine getting home from work, getting your kid, and like you're trying to do the things and do the routine, and they're fighting you on everything. I can understand the frustration, but my thing is, you did it this one night. Usually your wife is the one doing this. So she's going through the mental turmoil day in and day out, and you couldn't do it for one day without bitching. Like, I
And I
mean, make it make sense. I would have
make
just
it
kept
make
that in my
sense.
thought bubble, and I would have thought to myself, I'm a pay for my wife to go get a massage or something, because if
Bro,
she's doing this every day, I'm gonna have to love on her because I am broke down after one day.
but you know what? I think he has this idea that because she's the default parent, she's used to it. It's easy for her. She knows the things, she knows how he wants his sandwich cut. She knows how he wants to be sung. She knows how he likes the toys in the bath. And it's like, instead of thinking, "Oh, maybe I need to be more involved with my kid so that I can know these things," it's one of the things like, "Please don't let me watch my child again. Please don't leave me alone with my kid again." That is sad.
It is. It is weaponized incompetence.
It's talk about it.
It is
Can we spend
truly.
some time on that topic, please? Because you always hear weaponized incompetence being thrown around, and I feel like we don't really actually break it down. What does it mean? How does it affect the person who's doing it? And how does it affect the person receiving it?
Absolutely. So, you know what? Let's kind of, let me give you the actual definition from,
Okay.
let's say, we could use psychology today. The weaponized incompetence, also called strategic incompetence, is when
Mm.
someone knowingly or unknowingly demonstrates as an inability to perform or master certain tasks, thereby leading others to take on more work. This generally occurs in two domains: in the household, between partners, and at work, between colleagues. Consistently, weaponized incompetence leads to an unequal division of labor.
I never thought about weaponized incompetence at the workplace, but as I'm thinking about some of my coworkers, I'm like, okay, I see it. I'm clocking it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, speaking freely and like, in my position, I have a staff member who struggles with this real bad. And I think,
Mm,
once again, I don't think it's on purpose. So I do think it's unknowingly. But because she gets flustered easy, she kind of confuses herself at times. She will allow you to do the work for her. And she kind of will use like, I'm just trying to, double check, triple check, da da da. And it's like, you can do all those things, but still get the work done on time because you have 8 hours to get it done. And I'm not going to give you any excuse to why you didn't get this work done. I'm going to hold you accountable for not getting it done. And,
right.
I think for me right now, I am very short staffed. So I'm trying to you know, definitely walking on eggshells because I don't want to make any of my PRNs mad because I need them. But
Mhm.
I also feel like I can't expect my other staff to do your work. And that's kind of like a situation that's
Yeah.
happened recently where she left campus and I was under the assumption that she did all her work and she did not. And I had to have somebody else to do it. And that didn't feel good to me because what did you do for the 6 hours you were here? Obviously you didn't do your work. So what were you doing? So what did we pay you for? Because like the main reasons you're here is to do these couple of tasks. It's not a whole bunch of tasks, a couple of
Right.
tasks, and you didn't do the main one. And
Right.
now I have to have somebody else go behind you and do your work for them, which is
Mm,
putting extra on their plate, which is
yeah,
not fair. It is a un unequal division of labor.
of labor. So, is that a mental trait? Is that a choice? What is that exactly?
I for sure think that could be a part of somebody's mental health disorder, the weaponized incompetence. I think, for someone who struggles maybe with anxiety,
Mm,
just easily being overwhelmed, they just would prefer not to do it and someone else
mhm.
do it for them because that can potentially calm down the anxiety of taking the pressure off of them to do this, to perform. So someone else is doing it, so it makes me less anxious. So it could be a
Right.
situation like that. Or even if somebody is struggling with depression,
Mm,
they'll try to use the excuse of, well, I'm just feeling really depressed, so I can't. Like they'll tell you they can't physically do these things. So in situations where you're a parent, right? You say you can't physically do this because of depression, but it has to get done by somebody because you
Right.
have this little human that needs to be taken care of. So
Right.
if you're not doing it, your partner's doing it. And eventually, once again, an unequal division of labor, someone
Right.
else is doing like the majority of the work and someone else gets to weaponize their incompetence because of something that they have going on. We all have
Mm,
things going on.
mm,
So you have to be able to find those healthy coping skills to be able to manage your
mm,
symptoms so you're able to continue to do life the way you're supposed
mhm.
to.
Okay. So you mentioned anxiety potentially being a reason why one might weaponize their incompetence, and you also mentioned depression. Does narcissism play a role at all? Because sometimes I feel like I hear, "Well, you do it so much better," and it's like something like cleaning out the microwave. It's like, "No, I don't do it better, I do it. I just get it done."
Well, see, I don't know. I guess it could, but I think for narcissists in general, it's more a manipulation. It doesn't I don't know if it's coming from a space of weaponizing competence. It's more as they're trying to manipulate you to do the task because they just don't want to do it. I don't
So
know if I think weaponizing competence is more of helpless, like, damsel in distress vibes. And narcissism, they're more red pill alpha. I know all. I do it better than anybody. You can't do it better
Mhm.
than me. You aren't worthy. I'm worthy. You know what I mean? It's like a different tone typically
Right.
than like someone, who struggles with weaponizing confidence. I feel like that almost gives I want to do this, but I haven't been able to do this. So please do this for me. And
Hmm.
instead of me
That's so
learning to do this, I
right,
want you, I just want you to do it because you've been doing it and it's been
right,
getting done. So,
right. That is so
I'm,
interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
it's okay.
usually when I hear weaponized incompetence, it's a more it's not a I don't feel sorry for the person who's
Mm,
experiencing the incompetency that they're weaponizing, right? And I think that's why they put weaponize in front of it, where you don't get this tone of like helpless incompetence. It's weaponizing incompetence. You are doing this and you're using it as a weapon against me. So that's interesting that you're kind of defining it as something that maybe people are not intentionally doing. Is that right?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it even says it in our definition. It says like, here, let me go back to it. I just had it. Oh, right here. It says someone knowingly or unknowingly demonstrated an inability to perform or master certain tasks, thereby leading
Mm.
others to take on more work. So it can be unknowingly. Um, I can give a perfect example. We have been best friends. You hear me complain about this all the time about how my dad love him to death.
Yeah, we love
My dad
him.
love him to
We
death.
love him.
He was in a house full of people who were very good at electronics, right? Very
Uh-huh.
good. And I have offered to teach him a few things.
Mhm.
And my dad doesn't have a lot of patience. So I believe because my dad is not good with electronics, he has weaponized incompetence as it pertains to electronics. He just expects me or my sister or my mom to do it for him because we
Mm,
have just been doing it because we know he gets frustrated and we know he's trying to
yeah,
get something done. So because of
right.
that, he unknowingly
Mm,
is incompetent of performing a task, therefore creating more work for us. And
hmm.
instead of doing the research and just playing around with the electronics like we've encouraged him to do, he acts helpless when it comes to the stuff. And
Wow.
unfortunately, I can't even be mad at him all the way because we have created an
You
environment
enable it.
to allow
Mhm.
him to do that. We have enabled him.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so then if that is the case, you mentioned coping mechanisms earlier. What
hmm
how should someone respond and work with a person that they can tell is weaponizing their incompetence against them?
give them some training. Tell them exactly how to do it and let them know practice makes perfect. That's how I
Mhm.
mastered it. That's how I did
Mhm.
it. Like,
Mhm.
you don't learn overnight. You have
Mhm.
to put in the effort to learn the task and then master the task. And the only way you get to do that is by performing said task.
Mhm.
You cannot learn a task, don't pick it up, don't engage in it, don't put any effort
Right.
and think that you're going
Right.
to do it well.
Right.
And recognize that, yeah, we may, you may not be as good as me in this task in the beginning, but everybody starts from somewhere. You have to start from the bottom
Mhm.
in order to get
Right.
to the mastery stage. So
Right.
recognizing that where you are right now, I was there too.
Mhm.
The reason why I'm able to do this task with no problem is because I practice.
So in in the all her fault case, Jenny needs to say, and I put Milo or not Milo, when I put our son down, you're gonna put our
Mhm.
son down with me so that you can learn
Yes.
how to put our son down.
Exactly. Spend the day with me. Like, do a spend the day with me. Like, you're off work, I'm off work. We just take this random Monday and I show you all the things that I do for, I think their son name is Jack. Like, all
Jack.
I'll show you all the things that I do for Jack and how I make this process smooth. Yes, you
Right.
may tweak it a little bit and make it something that's special for you and Jack because you're dad and Jack and this is mom and Jack's
Right.
routine.
Right.
You can maybe
Right.
switch it up and things, but you can at least have a basic understanding or just a basic, you know, toolkit on what are some things he likes, what are some snacks he
Mm,
likes, how does he like to do his bath time, how does he like to read books, or what books he like to read at night, things like that. That way you can create your own routine with him, but you'll at least
mm.
have a stepping stone.
Hmm. That is it's just so interesting because again, I'm just struggling with this idea of having to give grace for people who are weaponizing their incompetence because even in the situation with Jenny, it's like we became parents at the same time. You know, I'm a first time parent, you're a first time parent. Why am I showing you something that I also had to learn? And again, maybe it's just hard for me to put myself in her husband's shoes, but it's just like, no, why do I have to teach you something that I taught myself? What is that? Because I feel like that's I feel like a lot of people feel that way, where it's just like, well, no, why am I gonna show you something that I had to figure out on my own? You figure it out. You're not dumb.
Right. Well, we also have to just learn, I mean, not learn, but just recognize that everybody learns differently. Like, you might be a person who can pick it up, teach yourself, and figure it out. Other people
Hmm.
don't learn like that. And it's unfair to have that expectation that just because I could figure it out, you could figure it out. Everybody is different. And, obviously, some of us have the mentality where we don't allow ourselves any other answer but to figure it out. You don't give yourself enough
Right.
grace to
Right.
recognize that, hey, if I'm not good at this, I can ask for help. You're like, no, I must be good at this and I'm going to
Mm,
perform. So some people have that, that extra oomph, that extra fire underneath their butts
yeah.
to do those things, and other people don't. And that can be many of reasons from that. Most of that is kind of like how you were raised and how you were like your work ethic and stuff like that, depending on the person, you know, they see work differently than some other people. So
Mm,
like I feel like I am definitely more inclined to feel the way you feel. We're both learning this as you go. There is no book on how to be a perfect parent. There's books about certain things, but it's very much on the job training. You're figuring out as you go.
right. Right.
However, as a therapist and as a person that also can relate to the perspectives of others, some people can't, some people have not been put in a place to have to feel that way.
Mm,
So all of this is foreign to them too. Remember, I think we said in episode two's synopsis, we were talking about how we think that maybe Jenny's husband's mom enabled a lot of behavior and she was very much a codependent parent and just just did everything for him. So this autonomy he has and this independence that he has now as an adult and as a parent and as a husband, he might be doing all these things for the first time ever because mama did it all. And that's, even though that's not his fault, it is his responsibility now as a husband, as a father, as an adult to learn these things and implement them so you're able to teach your son.
Wow. Do you think there are strategies or mechanisms out there for married persons to work through, being with somebody who maybe is weaponizing their incompetence? Because, I mean, you did say, teach them, but at what point does the onus go on that person to seek their own education on the things where they can acknowledge, oh, I'm just not really good at this. You can acknowledge that, and you can acknowledge that it's something you might not be good at it, but it's something you have to do. So what advice would you give to people in that position?
I tell people all the time, therapy only works as if you put in the effort. So,
Mm,
in a situation like that, I would encourage the married person who has the concerns to encourage their partner to seek therapy and to work
mm,
through these things and figure out maybe some deep rooted issues that maybe they
mm,
haven't worked through in their adulthood. And that's maybe stopping them from getting to their goals or, being the adult they want to be, and recognizing that it does start with taking accountability and
mm,
recognizing that your way of living has been maladaptive and it has had
mm,
negative impacts in your relationships.
mm.
The idea is to recognize, okay, I'm weaponizing my incompetence and I need to do something about it. Because if I don't, I might be single. I might have
Might be
to,
sad and lonely.
you might be sad and lonely. And not saying that I want the married persons to give their partners an ultimatum or something like that, because obviously that's not a healthy way to go about concerns in your relationship. But make it clear that this is, you're willing to compromise, but this is a non negotiable. Like, this is our son. We are raising him together. He is not just my responsibility.
Right.
And there is going to be some times where I'm going to need you to tap in. And it sounds like Jenny's not even asking for him to give 50-50. She's just asking for 25-75.
Please
I
meet
mean,
me.
damn.
Who's asking him to
Like,
show up, please?
it sounds like she's okay with doing majority of the things, but damn, when I ask for the time, you need to give it to me, because if I'm not even asking for half, you shouldn't have no issues with giving me a third when I only ask for a third.
Jenny, Penny.
Just foolishness. And then also in this episode, we got to see a very touching moment of Marissa kind of having an aha moment about how Anna was at the marathon with her when they were watching Peter do the
Mm, mhm,
marathon. And the only
mhm.
reason she brought Anna along was because she knew a client was going to be there and she wanted to work just briefly. She didn't want to work a long
Yeah.
time, just briefly say something to a client, work, and she was going to have Milo with Anna briefly. But she, struggles with recognizing that moment because she, is filled with guilt, filled with shame, because she's like, that was the day that Carrie brought that man to meet Milo.
Uh,
Meaning, if I didn't work, if I just stayed with my son and focused on the race, Anna wouldn't have been there to meet Carrie, and Carrie wouldn't have been able to have Milo meet this mystery man.
that scene was so impactful because I think it definitely had layers
Yeah.
because she was telling Peter, she was like, I knew there was going to be a potential client and I wanted to have a meeting with him without Milo. And I really had to ask myself, why? Why couldn't you have brought your son to the meeting? What? It's not like y'all was talking business for very long. It was a real quick hi, account, blah
Mhm.
blah blah blah. That bringing Milo might have helped seal the deal because
Mhm.
maybe the person was a family man. And I think part of I think the creators of the show partly wanted to emphasize the working mom and
Yeah.
this, fear of showing up as a mother. And you can and in this show it kind of showed two kind of frames because Jenny's meeting with the author where the guy was like, sleep is overrated or sleep for whatever he said. And Jenny was like, do you have kids? And he was like, no. And he was like, that makes sense because sleep is not overrated. And I love that because she was able to comfortably say, no, I'm hardworking. I do it all. I created
Yes.
this my own little drafts for you. I came up with the numbers work. And I love that. And then on the other hand, you see Marissa, who's very much like, no, you don't even need to know I'm a mom because I don't want you to second guess that I'm going to be about your account. I thought that
Right.
was so
My
powerful.
abilities.
I thought that was really powerful, and I'm really glad that the writers kind of pointed to that. And maybe I'm digging in a little bit deeper than what they intended, but I could see when I could see her feel so guilty because then they flash back showing Milo saying, I don't want Anna to come because if Anna comes, that means you're going to have to work. And hindsight, she's like, dang, I really am struggling with being fully present for my child and my company that I'm trying to run. That's tough.
It is. And I honestly, I thought about that, not as deep, but I just saw how, it was easy for Jenny to bring up the fact that she was a mom in all her conversations at work, even
Yeah.
stemming back to like the first
Yeah.
episode. And not that Marissa is like hiding her baby or anything, but
Mhm.
she's just very much business. She doesn't sprinkle some personal in there at
Right.
all. I mean,
Mhm.
she did say that I just wanted to come over here and say hi to you guys real quick. My husband's actually in the race and we're cheering him on. She
Right.
said we are, but she didn't say who the we were. She didn't,
Right. Right.
mention like, oh, my son, the nanny, and me are cheering.
Right.
But she said, we're cheering him on. And then she just went straight into business talk.
Right. And that stuff, but I appreciated that scene. And during that scene, we are introduced. Well, we were previously introduced to Kyle earlier on in this episode, but now we see that the Irvines have learned about Kyle, the detectives, the police have learned about Kyle, and Kyle's getting ready to learn about Kyle. I mean, they're about to be two famous people in this kidnapping, which Kyle did not want. And honestly, the first time I had watched this, I was wondering, like, where is Kyle coming from? Like, what? Because I didn't quite know yet. I didn't know, Carrie's relationship to Milo or anything like that. But the scene with Kyle, it intrigued me on so many levels. And the way that the New York Police Department was able to use their tech to access all these different cameras. Okay, big brother, we see you. I thought
Scary.
that was very.
And
You
say,
mean
oh,
to tell me?
that camera, you can hack that camera so you could see the front facing at this time so you could get this one person. And it was thousands of people at the marathon. Like, but she was able to get him, grabbing Carrie's arm.
And that,
Okay, got his face.
and the person who was behind the camera, the woman, she was like tags. People love. She's just looking up tags. She's like, we literally are spying on each other for the government. It
Mhm.
was other people's photos and recordings that she was able to look up
Use.
geolocation and tags and use in order to find Kyle. I was like, we need to put our phones down. We need to put our big brother is big brother.
Need to put
That
the
was
phone
crazy.
down. I think as I've gotten older, I just have gotten away from recording everything or taking pictures of everything because
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to be in the moment. And like,
Mm,
sometimes we get so wrapped up in the phones or what to post on social media. It's almost like we forget how magical these moments are. And, sometimes we want to take pictures so we can remember the moment for sure. But
yeah.
I mean, damn, it seemed like anytime something happened, click, click, you got, yes, you grab the phone to take a picture.
It's sad. It really, and we've become so we've become so desensitized to it. Like just, people being in danger, people being hurt. The first thing we do, oh, let me record. It's like, I blame World Star. I blame World Star.
World Star. They started it off.
They
World
did.
Star. They started it off.
They did.
Yes,
It's so sad.
it
Yes. But that
is.
was a good scene. It was a really
It
good scene.
was. And then also kind of pivoting from that, we see that Peter gets a phone call from a mysterious person talking about,
We
"I
know
have
who
your
it is
son,
now.
and he
Yeah,
likes Fruit Loops," and, stuff like that, and mommy and daddy barely let me have them. So, I think in that moment, Peter knew, "Oh, this person does really have Milo, because how would he know that he really likes Fruit Loops and we don't really give it to him?"
right.
So, of course, Peter is Peter, and he does not tell his wife. He, in fact, lies to her, deceives her, and says he's
My
going to go on a
gosh.
drive to go collect this money for this ransom for Milo.
But the acting was top tier. When he was like, "I just can't. I can't
I
go
just
out
can't, I
there. I
can't
can't
stomach
listen to this.
it.
I can't."
The drama, the
And then when he
drama.
got back and he was like, "I just sat in the car and I
I,
cried." And watching it for the second time, I was like, "He's good."
he's good. Narcissists are.
Oh my
They're that
god.
good. They're that good.
I was like, just watching it again, I was
Scary.
shocked. I was shocked. That was so scary. And honestly, just going ahead a little bit more, I am wondering why. I can't remember. I know he tells Marissa in the series at which point he realized he knew who had kidnapped Milo. And I can't remember if he is aware at this point when he's getting the money. I don't think he is. But I'm wondering if he had intentions on killing the alleged kidnapper when he got the money or not. It wasn't clear to me why he was getting that money if he ended up killing him anyway. I don't know.
Think it's later on in another episode. I think he realizes, shit, this is like Milo's granddaddy. And that's when he decides, oh yeah, because another thing is, we know this, not yet, but we know this because we've watched it already,
Right,
that
right.
Milo's granddaddy is a loan shark.
Yes.
So he already knows, I'm going to give him these thousands of dollars, and all he's going to do is continue to milk me, continue to threaten me. He's never
Yes,
going to let me go.
yes,
Milo's
yes.
going to be considered a cash cow to this man, because as you can see, that man gave no regards about Milo, about his daddy. We won't say what happened yet, but he has no regard for him or his daughter. He just wants the money. So once we know that it's coming up, that once he meets up with homeboy and he was like, my daughter is convinced that this baby is her baby, what you gonna do about it? Peter was
Facts. I
like,
forgot
okay,
about
your
that.
fate is sealed. Okay,
Facts, facts. I forgot. So he
I'll be
he
the bad guy.
was right, right, right. He was intending to just give the money and take Milo
Yeah,
back. But when he
yeah,
realized, oh, okay, I got you, I got you. Yes. That now makes sense. Okay, so Peter really wanted to handle the situation on his own.
he did. He did. He wanted, as we see, Peter is a control freak. Like, he likes to know everything, do everything, control everything so he can prepare for the outcomes. So, in this situation, the man asks for money. They're well off. Money is not a thing. So he's like, "Okay, I'll give you the money." He's giving like poor people problems. Here, you want the
Right.
money? Take the money. You give me my son. We go about our business. But he can already tell when he got to the hotel what time that man was on. So he was like, yeah, you're not leaving. But what's
Right.
crazy is, like what you mentioned, you thought it was a good idea to murk somebody in this hotel room with your son, your traumatized son, in the closet. And then not only do you do that, but you put something over his head, his father, you put something over his head, put him in the back of a trunk, and drive him to some random parking lot, open the trunk, and then call 911 for them to come get him. Like, hasn't Milo been through enough?
Oh my God. It's almost like all her fault. Like they knew what they were doing. They knew we were gonna have to watch this back. Cause watching it for a second time, it's like, wait, what? Wait, what? You re-kidnapped your son and left
And
him
then, God
and
forbid, if you left and called 911, what if he got snatched again? By some real sinister people, like not people that care about him, not people who love him and want to take him and take care of him, but like the actual people that were afraid of really kidnapping kids. Like, that could have been the thing. You left him in some scary motel parking lot
Oh, I hate that.
in 2025.
In 2020. What? The thing that got
Like,
me also watching this background was when Peter came back to like the beach where they were recanvassing, and he came back and met up with
mhm,
Marissa. Marissa was like, "We haven't gotten a ransom call yet, so what are they doing with my son?"
mhm.
She was distraught. She felt really, really bad.
He ain't said nothing.
You got a ransom call, and
Just
you could calm your wife, and you choosing not to? Evil man.
evil, just straight up evil. But I think, once again, I think he just wanted to control everything. He probably didn't want her to worry. And then listen to this. If he would have told her, he would have had to fess up quicker, because if he told her, she would have wanted to been involved with going to see the man who has Milo.
True,
Then he would
true,
have been talking his stuff. She would have been like, what is he talking about? It would have been a whole thing. It would have been a whole thing.
true.
And I don't know if he would have murked him in front of Marissa, but he definitely would have came back for him. He would have ended up
Right,
dead regardless.
right,
Like, Peter wasn't going to let him live. But I think,
right.
once again, maybe in a sick way, Peter's trying to protect her. The less she knows, if it does come back on him, she won't know anything. But with him being narcissistic, I don't believe that. I think he is very much for himself, and he's just trying to protect himself, because ultimately he committed the biggest crime. You stole somebody's baby. You stole somebody's baby.
Peter. Oh my
Peter.
gosh. I can't wait
All
till we
her
get to
fault,
that
all
episode.
your fault, bro. We wouldn't
Bro.
even be here if it wasn't for you.
And it's so funny because in this episode, Marissa was like, will you just be mad at me? Will you just blame me? Will you just,
Yeah, she said,
because
just
it's all
hate
my
me. It would
fault.
just be so
Just
much
hate me.
easier.
And he was like, I'll never. And it's like, yeah, we know you will never do it because you know the truth.
You
You
know
know
the truth.
it's not her fault.
It's your fault. It's his fault about everything. But we'll definitely
Is.
get into that when that
We'll get into
episode comes. I
that for
can't wait for
sure.
us to talk about that
For sure.
episode.
Can we talk about Colin's character for a moment?
Now, Colin. I just hate that the black man gotta be like, the one with the gambling addiction, the one that's like, being
Down
sneaky and
bad.
stealing money and replenishing money and stuff like that. Like, but the thing is, I love how he's authentically there for
Mm.
Marissa. He's planning the search and rescue party. He's giving her feedback, asking her, like, what you want, what can I do, things like that. And, he does show like he feels indebted to her, because she did go into business with him despite him having a gambling addiction and things like that. She was just, she saw him for who he is. However, when he backslid and gambled, he did not come clean.
He didn't. That what he did with the accounts where he had used money from an account that he had to gamble, lost it, and then used money from a trust he was overseeing
Managing.
to replenish. I mean, that's usually how these accountants get caught up because they using money that ain't theirs. I think that's embezzlement. And so I thought that was interesting, and I was and we later learned his relationship with Leah. So for him to use her money, I was like, ouch.
Maybe low-key feels entitled to it. Like, I'm her man. I can just use it. I can borrow it. I'm good for it. I'll put it back.
Or maybe he felt like she's good for it. She'll be all right without it.
That's another thing. It might be real fat, and he's just like, she won't even notice it's gone.
Exactly. And it seems like, they're very, very wealthy. It seems like Peter definitely comes from money. And he was able to get all that money in a very short amount of time. And the dude said, I'll empty the accounts. He said, I'll empty the accounts. I don't know if he was giving up all his money for Milo, because if that's the case, maybe he won some points back. But it does seem like they definitely come from a wealthy background. So I'm not entirely sure what when he moved those funds around, but he going to jail now. Well, he did, but he would have been going to jail now.
He would have for sure been going to jail.
Yes. And he could have took Marissa down with him. I think that's the part that is probably one of the reason why he inserted himself the way he did. And you said like he just showed up so authentically. I don't know that it was because he felt indebted to Marissa as much as it might be because he felt guilty about what he did and with Marissa's business. Because I think it was last episode at the press conference, we're learning that they're being audited, and the reporters were kind of pointing to potentially there being some issues with her business that maybe Marissa did not know about, but certainly Colin knew about. And certainly Peter knew about it because he was the one who was trying to dead the story and didn't tell Marissa. These men ain't ish.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. Yep, the reporter did say something about the audits, but Marissa kind of ate them up with saying like all the financial companies get audited. Like it's like a normal thing.
It
You
was
get audited
routine.
every couple years. Like, why would I make up something about my son being kidnapped to
It
gain
was interesting
attention?
though. It was an interesting theory, and I think that's why this show was so well written because it had me back and forth. Did Marissa do it? Who did it? I kept wanting to blame Marissa because it just seemed like, I mean, by this episode, I had like, okay, she didn't do it. It was something else. But it did have me wonder. I felt like the writers really held me onto that plot that, oh, maybe it is all Marissa's fault. But you quickly learn that it ain't.
You quickly learn that it ain't, not even a little bit. Poor Marissa, free Marissa.
Well, she's free now. She living her best
Right.
life because a homeboy probably passed with a big old life insurance plan. Is she getting away with murder? Okay.
So yes, this episode had you on the edge of your seat looking at all this stuff. And then, by the end of the episode, they show us that, they show us Cal Smith, they show his full face, and then they take us back to Esther's house from the very first episode and
Yes.
her house where Marissa came thinking that Milo was there with Jenny and Jack. And it was just Esther, and it showed us a picture of Kyle Smith and Esther with him holding, like I'm assuming, his high school diploma. And that's kind of like how the episode ends, which is crazy because it's like, how does this happen now? Like, out of all the houses in Chicago, I end up at your house. You don't have my son, and whole time the man that's also involved with kidnapping my son.
Right. Now it makes a little more sense to me why she was so welcoming in the beginning. She's a foster mother. She's someone who likes to take care of people. So I kind of came around to that. And then she showed up at the other canvassing event at the beach. She brought her business, brought snacks and things like that. So I thought that was cool. And I don't know if I'm getting into episode 4 or not, but I didn't like how the detective was questioning her. I wouldn't be like, don't do too much on my girl Esther now. She ain't a part of this.
You could understand why he might
Yeah,
was going a little hard, because I mean, it was just so many coincidences, and
it
she was,
was.
and when he said, the beginning of episode 4, when he said like, out of all the houses in Chicago, you were he was she was sent to your address, and he was visited by Carrie Finch in jail, the only visitor, a week before he gets released, and you want me just to think that all of this is a coincidence?
Yeah. I started feeling bad for Esther. I started feeling bad for my girl because Kyle used her like a dog. And I ain't like that. And
I
I
ain't
was
like
ready for
that
Kyle to get
either.
caught. I ain't like
Yeah.
that. But let's not get too much into episode 4.
Yes, we'll save that for the next episode.
Yes. And we can talk more about Detective Alcaraz because we learn a little bit more about his son, Sam, who I guess is autistic, and he is trying to get him into this really great school for autistic children. And his wife, I really like this because Akeem and I were talking the other day about the pressures of being a man and being a husband. And I really like how this show did kind of show some of that pressure because his wife, they having pillow talk, and she's like, there's nothing I wouldn't do to get my son in that school. I'd do anything, I'd give anything. And so you can just kind of see Detective Al dealing with this decision of potentially ending his whole career and committing a crime with evidence tampering because the basically somebody who knows somebody at the school who would give, the detective this one spot that they have for low income parents is basically like, look, you do a favor by getting this rich white kid off of a charge for Xanax possession, your son will get that spot. And initially, Detective Alcaraz, rightfully so, is like, I ain't that cop, that ain't me. But then he comes back home, and the pillow talk got him thinking, like, is it me? People do this all the time. And I think his decision ultimately brings the story full circle because, when we get to the ending, we'll talk about it. But I would love to talk more about Detective Alcaraz and his family in the next episode.
In the next episode. Yes. Yes, I feel like, I mess with Detective McConville, Detective
Yeah.
Alvarez,
Uh-huh.
but his episode was low key boring. I ain't gonna even lie. Like episode 4 was low key boring. Like it just wasn't given what the first 3 episodes were given. But I do like that they kind of took a break and kind of gave us some background information just to see all the other things that is going on that is still very much important. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but it was
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a snooze fest for that episode.
I
Just a
liked
little bit.
episode 4, and I think it gives us a little more insight into the background of Kyle and
That's
Carrie.
true.
So I definitely think we'll have a lot of mental diagnoses for episode 4 of The Bar and the Brain.
Yes. Yes, we will.
You want to end this
Well,
out?
yeah, well, folks, thank you so much for staying tuned and watching. Don't forget, even though we are licensed professionals, this is not us giving you any professional advice. If you would like to, seek any type of therapy services or any services for law, please reach out to your providers that are in your jurisdictions, in your areas, in your state where you are licensed. And thank you so much for watching. And we can't wait to get into episode 4
Yes. And don't forget
of
to like and subscribe and follow and all the things.
all the things.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay, we did it. All right, let me stop the recording.